72 teddy bears arranged on a grown man's bed, a laminated card showing exactly where each one should be placed, staff members exchanging uncomfortable glances. Wait, that's a different story. Let me tell you about what really happened on Christmas morning, 2025. The United Kingdom shall no longer provide armed police protection to the Duke of Sussex. The decision stands. No further reassessment shall be entertained. 9 words that dropped at 9 a.m. GMT on December 25, 2025, Christmas morning. While families across Britain unwrapped presents and pulled crackers, Buckingham Palace detonated a bomb that would erase any hope Prince Harry had of coming home. Today we're diving into the story behind that single line. The legal battles, the secret meetings, the moment a grandfather chose duty over his grandson. And what many people don't know is this wasn't just about security, it was about something far bigger. Let's talk about what really happened in the final weeks of 2025. For years, royal watchers kept saying the same thing. Maybe there'd be a quiet reconciliation. Maybe behind those gilded gates, someone would leave the door open just a crack. Harry would come back. The family would heal. Britain loves a redemption story, right? Wrong. On December 25, 2025, King Charles III locked the gates shut, not with ambiguity, with authority. The statement came from Buckingham Palace at exactly 9 a.m., published officially 2 days later on December 27th. The timing wasn't random. Sources close to the palace confirmed the statement was drafted at Clarence House and released just hours before King Charles appeared at the Christmas Day service at St. George's Chapel. He wasn't alone. Prince William stood on his right, Princess Catherine on his left, Princess Anne just behind them. The symbolism was coordinated down to the minute. This was the future of the monarchy, lined up like soldiers, and Harry, he wasn't in the frame. The announcement itself was clinical. Prince Harry would no longer receive taxpayer-funded armed police protection while on British soil. What was once a debate over risk assessment had become a constitutional line in the sand. The message was clear: titles mean nothing without loyalty. But then came the moment that stunned even seasoned royal insiders. Inside a private reception following the Christmas service, King Charles unveiled the historic Oriental circlet, a regal piece once worn by Queen Victoria herself. For a moment, guests assumed he would place it on Queen Camilla's head, a gesture of respect, a Christmas surprise. He didn't. King Charles turned to Princess Catherine and publicly bestowed the crown upon her. Officials later described it as a gesture of succession clarity. That's palace speak for. This is the era of William and Catherine, and everyone else stands outside the frame. The formal statement read, "Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales, shall henceforth hold the ceremonial stewardship of the Oriental crown in trust for the future of the House of Windsor." Released at 1:14 p.m. GMT, December 25, 2025. It wasn't fashion, it was a declaration. What many don't realize is that Harry had been fighting behind the scenes for months. Insiders now confirm he made a final appeal through legal channels to restore his security privileges. There were quiet back-channel communications with Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood, discussions with RAVEC, the UK's Royal and VIP Executive Committee, the shadowy group that decides who gets protection and who doesn't. For a brief moment in early December, it seemed like Harry might actually succeed. Reports in The Guardian and The Mirror hinted at a possible case review. Royal watchers held their breath. Maybe the family would soften. Maybe Charles would intervene. But on December 23rd, RAVEC issued a final, unequivocal rejection. Then came the palace's confirmation. Not only would the monarchy endorse RAVEC's ruling, they would make it official royal policy. This wasn't about risk level anymore. This was about status. A senior royal correspondent for The Times put it bluntly: Prince Harry no longer holds a position warranting crown-funded protection. From Clarence House to Sandringham, the shift in tone was unmistakable. Far from remaining neutral, King Charles is understood to have personally lobbied to ensure the ruling was final, irreversible, and codified across royal institutions. But the security ruling was just the beginning. Alongside it, the palace confirmed sweeping new restrictions on the Sussex brand and its connection to the monarchy. The Archie Foundation, once wrapped in the soft glow of royal inspiration, was now stripped of all legitimacy in the eyes of the crown. Effective immediately, Archie may no longer use royal imagery, titles, or seals of legitimacy. Any association with British royal patronages, Commonwealth initiatives, or UK-based diplomacy is now prohibited. projects referencing the Sussexes in connection. With Windsor will be flagged by the palace's new Digital Integrity Task Force, created specifically to protect royal trademarks and prevent what they call representational confusion. It's the most aggressive intellectual property move the royals have introduced since 1975. This left Meghan and Harry's global media presence, especially in the US, deeply exposed. As one royal aide told The Telegraph, this is no longer a family rift, it is a formal decoupling of public trust. As Harry's institutional links collapsed, Princess Catherine's star only ascended. On December 20th, 5 days before the Christmas bombshell, a new website quietly launched under the royal household banner. It's called The Crown's Compass, a digital platform mapping Catherine's role in education, charity, diplomacy, and now ceremonial stewardship of the monarchy's feminine legacy. A page dedicated to the Oriental Circlet reads, "A crown not of conquest, but of continuity, entrusted to Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales, in trust for the future." This is the clearest signal yet that Catherine is no longer merely a consort in waiting. She's being positioned as a monarch's equal, the moral and symbolic axis around which modern royalty will turn. The palace is preparing a multi-pronged campaign to consolidate this message. A revised patronage map will formally reassign all Sussex-related charities to other senior royals. Legal documentation will be filed across international media platforms to restrict the use of royal titles and affiliations. An internal audit will investigate all instances between 2020 and 2025 where the Sussexes may have misused royal representation in public campaigns. What remains of Harry and Meghan's platform now depends on private branding, not institutional association, and in the cutthroat world of Hollywood and philanthropy, that distinction may prove fatal. But this story doesn't start with a press release or a legal ruling. It starts with a private conversation, a confession that shattered everything Harry thought he knew. Part 2, the backstory, 1,100 words. She said she loved me, but it was never love, it was positioning, and I missed every sign. Prince Harry allegedly said these words to a royal aide on December 24, 2025, inside the Sandringham estate. Accounts from palace insiders describe a man visibly shaken, pacing the royal gardens until midnight. But to understand how Harry got to that moment, we need to go back. Sandringham Estate, December 23, 2025. He arrived without warning, no security entourage, no Meghan, no children. Prince Harry's unannounced presence at the gates of Sandringham took the royal staff by complete surprise. But inside the Queen's old study, now Princess Anne's stewardship office, he wasn't seeking reconciliation, he was seeking answers. The man who greeted Harry wasn't a royal secretary or legal counsel, it was a figure from his mother's past. A trusted former palace officer, long retired, but still consulted by senior royals for his discretion and loyalty. His name has not been disclosed, but sources confirm he was part of Princess Diana's personal security detail during the final 2 years of her life. And that man, calm and grave with files in hand, told Harry the truth. For nearly 2 hours, Harry sat in stunned silence as he was shown. Internal memos from 2017, suggesting Meghan Markle's PR team made direct contact with tabloid editors before her engagement to Harry, was even confirmed. Footage of pre-marriage interviews where Meghan allegedly rehearsed narratives about racism, family rejection, and royal mistreatment months before any conflict had publicly occurred. Communications between Meghan and a former Hollywood manager, indicating she had requested positioning advice for global branding as a Duchess figure as early as mid-2016. The files also referenced off-the-record testimonies from Meghan's ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, who has reportedly agreed to share sealed documents from their divorce, documents that include NDAs, financial clauses, and warnings about repeated public misrepresentation. Harry's face, insiders say, went completely still. Then he asked a single question, "Did my mother know?" To which the man simply replied, "She would have stopped this, that's why I had to come to you." Sources inside the palace say Harry left the meeting visibly shaken. He reportedly did not return calls from Meghan for 11 hours. On Christmas Eve, shortly after 10 a.m., Harry summoned a royal protocol officer and made a chilling request. "I want to know what protections exist if I declare Meghan mentally unfit for guardianship." It wasn't a declaration of war. It was the first legal precursor to a possible custody strategy. But even as Harry began to emotionally and morally separate from Meghan, a powerful chain still bound them. A $41 million joint content contract signed in 2022 with one of Hollywood's biggest entertainment firms. Under that contract, Harry and Meghan are contractually obligated to appear together in all promotional campaigns tied to the Archie identity, co-host the upcoming 2026 Global Summit on Mental Health and Leadership, and participate in live-streamed family moments every quarter for their subscribers, including scenes with Archie and Lilibet. Meghan's legal team, based in Los Angeles, had already warned Harry that any public separation, derogatory statement, or breach of appearance schedule could result in tens of millions in damages. And worse, Meghan could claim contractual parental alienation. In essence, even if Harry wanted out, he had to keep playing the part, at least in public. Back in Montecito, sources claim Meghan smashed a phone, canceled a Christmas PR shoot, and locked herself in her private study for over 6 hours when she learned Harry had returned to the UK without her. But behind closed doors, she was moving fast. Meghan called an emergency meeting with executives at several streaming and publishing firms, demanding they accelerate the release of content centered around Lilibet. This included a children's book series titled Lilibet the Brave, a docufeature on motherhood under scrutiny, and a controversial VR experience said to recreate Diana's final days from the perspective of her granddaughter. This wasn't just brand survival, it was counteroffensive storytelling. Meghan was trying to cement herself as the maternal torchbearer of Diana's legacy before Harry could rewrite the narrative. But what she didn't know was this: Trevor Engelson was about to speak. Part 3, The Crisis, 1,150 words. She doesn't marry men, she recruits them. Trevor Engelson allegedly wrote this in a private message to Royal Legal Counsel in December 2025, and on December 24th, Christmas Eve, he sat down with 2 members of the Windsor legal team in Manhattan. The meeting took less than 40 minutes, but the contents may undo nearly a decade of public perception. What Trevor delivered wasn't just gossip, it was documentation, legally binding, notarized, deeply incriminating. The first bombshell came in the form of a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, signed by Engelson in 2013. The NDA prohibited him from publicly discussing Meghan's personal psychological assessments during their marriage, her alleged staging of media moments for career advancement, and early drafts of a semi-autobiographical screenplay centered on a woman who marries into aristocracy and manipulates public sympathy. But now, in light of what the Windsor legal team called a legally compelling national interest, citing concerns for the moral and psychological well-being of 2 royal minors, Trevor agreed to revoke the NDA and cooperate fully. The files also included financial logs showing Meghan commissioned a ghostwriter in 2015 to draft a memoir titled Becoming Royal, The Outsider's Path to Power, a full year before meeting Prince Harry, emails between Meghan and her then-agent, outlining a plan to build empathy by positioning herself as a misunderstood woman of color to be deployed selectively during key media cycles. A notarized document describing a social leverage strategy tied to future motherhood, including a chilling line: "If married into power, motherhood must be narrated, never witnessed." Harry was reportedly given access to these files via encrypted courier on the morning of December 25th, while staying in the private guest wing of Sandringham. Within hours, he asked to meet with Princess Catherine and Princess Anne privately. Insiders say the conversation was short, quiet, and ended with only 6 words from Harry: "I want them out, both of them." When pressed for clarification, he allegedly added, "Archie and Lilibet are not props, and I will not let her use them as brand bait, not anymore." He then made a phone call to Los Angeles, not to Meghan, but to his entertainment lawyer, requesting an emergency legal opinion on child exploitation under commercial contracts. This triggered an internal risk review by the firm that manages the Sussex's media appearances, and by midday on December 26th, the clause that had once held Harry hostage was finally found. In the event that one party is credibly accused of exploiting shared minors for commercial gain, the non-accused party reserves the right to temporarily suspend joint appearances and seek arbitration to sever contracts without penalty. It was the first real crack in the legal chain binding Harry to Meghan. Back in California, Meghan's reaction was volcanic. According to sources within her PR agency, Meghan canceled a scheduled New Year's Eve recording with Spotify, fired one of her senior image consultants, and contacted 3 litigation firms to prepare for defamation and contract sabotage. She also reportedly began working on a last-minute, heartfelt documentary centered on single motherhood, emotional betrayal, and being abandoned by a broken family. It was set to drop on January 14, 2026. But why? Harry now invoking Clause 6b14. The clock might run out before the cameras could even roll. At Windsor, Princess Anne was quietly drawing up a 3-stage plan for Harry's reintegration and the moral reclamation of his children. Stage 1, soft reinstatement. Harry appears solo at the January 6 charity forum under the royal banner, marking his first non-Sussex-affiliated event since 2020. Stage 2, narrative rehabilitation. An official royal statement denouncing the commercialization of children under royal names without naming Meghan. Stage 3, public reclaiming. A photo of Archie and Lilibet with King Charles and Prince William at Balmoral, prepared but only released after legal greenlight. These weren't just symbolic moves. They were calculated, constitutionally reviewed steps toward cutting Meghan out morally, publicly, and eventually legally. Then came the Balmoral reset. Balmoral Castle, December 27, 2025, 10:42 a.m. The air in the room was cold, not because of the Scottish winter, but because of the urgency in Prince William's voice. For the first time in nearly a decade, the heirs and guardians of the crown sat down without courtiers, without PR, and without Queen Camilla. Only King Charles, Princess Anne, Prince William, and surprisingly, Duchess Sophie were present. The meeting lasted 2 hours. It had one goal: protect the next generation and define the line that cannot be crossed again. Princess Anne presented documents reviewed by the Royal Legal Office, outlining a provisional custody request by Prince Harry. He was seeking full legal guardianship of Archie and Lilibet while residing in the UK, a freeze on all commercial use of their names, voices, or likeness, and institutional approval for all educational, media, and security decisions involving the children while in UK territory. What changed? According to insider briefings, Harry received classified intelligence from a UK-US joint cybersecurity team showing that Lilibet Diana and Princess Lilibet were registered as brand names in over 42 jurisdictions, including tax havens like Cyprus and the Cayman Islands. Meghan had been attempting to license Lilibet's name for organic skincare for toddlers, NFT children's storybooks, a Lilibet and Me animated television show in pre-production with a Nordic streamer, and a soft-launch clothing line already trademarked in Liechtenstein. Ironically, it was a minor scandal in Rome that unraveled the web. During a charity auction hosted at the Vatican on December 20th, a children's painting titled Hope by Princess Lilibet was quietly withdrawn from sale. The reason? Vatican staff questioned how a 4-year-old could grant permission to sell work under a royal trademark. That incident triggered a reverse IP search, which exposed the network of companies Meghan quietly set up under the Archie umbrella, many using Delaware-registered shell corporations tied to Hollywood insiders, and one European crypto investor flagged for laundering. King Charles reportedly slammed his fist on the table when shown the visual diagram of this network. She is monetizing Diana's legacy again, but this time through a child. Part 4, The Truth, 1,100 words. Simultaneously, a quiet financial freeze was enacted. Swiss banking authorities confirmed that a request for review had been submitted via UK diplomatic channels, focusing on 2 Archie-linked accounts believed to house residual proceeds from Spotify and Netflix, private donations made under false charity pretense, and licensing advances related to Princess Lilibet projects. Meghan, upon learning of this, was seen boarding a private jet from Los Angeles to Zurich. Her spokesperson claimed she was visiting philanthropic partners in Europe, but the timing was damning. One British tabloid went further. She flew into Europe with a legal team, not to sign deals, but to secure what's left of her empire before it crumbles. And here's what most people missed. Duchess Sophie, known for her calm public image, emerged as the monarchy's silent executor. It was Sophie who commissioned the reverse IP audit on the Lilibet brand, contacted education oversight boards to block homeschooling accreditations linked to Lilibet's private tutor in California, and privately reached out to Trevor Engelson to corroborate Meghan's past media manipulations involving minors. Sophie's private remark to Princess Catherine, now widely circulated, speaks volumes. This isn't about revenge. It's about safeguarding the moral spine of this institution. To counter Meghan's likely media counterattack, Kensington Palace prepared a short film to be released on January 5, 2026. It featured archival footage of Queen Elizabeth II reading to children, unseen moments between Catherine, Charlotte, and Lilibet at Sandringham, and a voiceover by Princess Catherine centered on the theme, "Children are not currency." No Sussex child appeared directly, but the message was clear. By the end of the Balmoral meeting, 3 declarations were signed. The Children's Charter, barring any Windsor minor from being used in monetized media without royal consent. The Royal Guardian Doctrine, naming Princess Anne and Prince William as interim protectors of royal heirs under threat. The Windsor Reset Order, legally declaring Meghan Markle a non-affiliated public figure with no access to royal privileges, symbolism, or event participation. And in one final symbolic moment, King Charles ordered the removal of Diana's framed photo from Meghan's former dressing room in Frogmore Cottage. Legacy must be earned, not sold, His Majesty's final words before leaving Balmoral. Then came Harry's solo appearance. As the sun dipped below the London skyline on December 28, a wave of gasps swept across the crowd outside St. Mary's Hospital. Prince Harry, clad in a dark wool coat, stepped out of a black Land Rover, alone. There was no Meghan, no entourage, no staged smiles. Instead, Harry was holding a bouquet of white lilies, a tribute to the late Queen Elizabeth II and to a royal children's hospice Catherine had quietly reopened just days before. It was his first official appearance under what palace aides now call the solo protocol. Under this measure, Prince Harry may appear at select royal-affiliated charities only under the following conditions: no spouse or partner present, no children in attendance, no press arrangements permitted by the Sussex PR team, and all speech content pre-approved by the Royal Office of External Engagement. This move, insiders say, was not punitive but protective. It's about giving Harry space to reconnect with royal duty without the distractions of Meghan's media strategy. Harry's visit lasted 47 minutes. He spoke to families. He sat beside a terminally ill boy named Joseph and handed him a toy fire truck. But what captured the world's attention was the note he left at the memorial wall. To those we've lost and to those still worth fighting for, H. Barely 2 hours later, Meghan Markle's legal team filed a temporary injunction against unauthorized institutional interference in her children's branding opportunities. At the same time, sources inside Netflix confirmed that Meghan's production company had completed editing a 42-minute special titled "When They Locked Me Out: The True Price of Royal Silence." The episode, rumored to include staged reenactments of palace arguments, a child actress playing Lilibet, and a veiled reference to Princess Catherine's white-walled rage, set off alarms inside Buckingham Palace. One royal aide described it as a declaration of war dressed up as a documentary. Even Netflix board members were reportedly split over the ethics of the content, with at least one senior executive calling for an internal review. But the Crown had one final move. On December 25th, Kensington Palace quietly released a single photo. It wasn't the usual family Christmas portrait. There was no staged tree, no choreographed smiles. It was a candid black and white image of Princess Charlotte, sitting in a high-backed chair in Windsor's East Gallery, her arms crossed, eyes locked on the camera with startling clarity. She wore a simple tartan dress. At her side rested a leather-bound book belonging to Queen Victoria. The caption read, "For those who listen in silence, Merry Christmas, C." Within minutes, the image went viral. Vogue called it a masterclass in restrained power. The New York Times described it as a child not being used, but standing watch. A former royal photographer tweeted, "She looks like she already knows the future and accepts the weight." What most didn't notice was the brooch on Charlotte's collar. According to palace historians, it once belonged to Princess Margaret, a gift from Queen Elizabeth to her younger sister, symbolizing both protection and rebellion. The choice was not accidental. Multiple royal strategists confirmed that the image was part of a larger counter-programming campaign to dismantle Meghan's children as brand narrative. Instead of showing Lilibet in public or letting Archie appear in commercial ventures, the palace offered an icon of dignity, restraint, and lineage through Charlotte. "Charlotte is not performing," said one royal source. "She is present. There's a difference Meghan never understood." At exactly 8 p.m. GMT on December 30th, Buckingham Palace issued a midnight decree, the final legal severing of the Sussexes from royal privileges. All financial restitution demands escalated to formal arbitration. All communication must proceed via legal counsel. All symbols of the crown, including titles, motifs, and crests, banned from any commercial product or media appearance related to the Sussex brand. But it was the final clause that sparked global shock. No royal claims shall be conferred upon the children of the House of Sussex, nor shall any descendant inherit titles, privileges, or expectations beyond those afforded by common citizenship. IP of the United Kingdom. In effect, Archie and Lilibet are now legally considered private British citizens with no connection to royal succession. King Charles III released a pre-recorded address titled A Reflection and a Blessing. For 13 minutes, the king reflected on his mother's legacy, Britain's resilience, and the crown's duty to evolve. But it was his closing paragraph that moved the nation. To Archie, wherever you are, I loved you from the moment I first held you. The door of this family does not close with anger, but with duty. One day, should you come not to ask for titles, but to understand the truth, this nation will meet you with quiet grace. Until then, may peace find you before pride does. The message was not addressed to Meghan, nor to Lilibet. It was a grandfather's last olive branch to a grandson lost in the fog of media, ambition, and misaligned legacy. Sources confirmed that earlier that week, 3 royal figures, Princess Anne, Prince William, and Princess Catherine, gathered at Balmoral for a private ritual. There was no press, no photo released, but a staffer reported seeing them place a sealed envelope in Queen Elizabeth's private writing desk, the same desk used to write the 1952 accession letter. It was a note for the future, the staffer said, not for Harry, not for Meghan, for Charlotte and those who will carry the weight forward. The gates are locked now, the illusion is over. But the legacy of this chapter belongs not to the headlines, but to the quiet players, to Catherine, who fought without shouting, to Harry, who gave without broadcasting, and to Charlotte, who never needed a crown to prove she was born to wear one.